Happy Monday, September 12th, 2022. Yesterday was September 11th, of course. So I asked my daughter on the way to school. Oh, there's another story about my daughter buying some crypto. But I asked my daughter on the way to school, I said, hey, you know what 9/11 is? What it means? And she says, oh, not really. She's 8. She said, and I know she's seen it before, but never probably put it together, you just don't get it. I said, don't they talk about it in school? She says, no. I'm like, okay. 21 years go by, boom, it's over. I guess after 20 years, nobody cares anymore. You got the big 20-year celebration. But yesterday, there were a couple of programs. There wasn't a lot. I didn't see a lot of talk about it. Like I've become accustomed to in the past. There were some programs, just watching this bird fly over. There were some programs. Looks like one of those ancient birds, pterodactyl type things. Seabird looking thing. It's white. So anyway, distractions. Bird. I don't know, it's popping up here. So I explained to her what 9/11 was. I tried to, say, hey, this happened. It happened on, the date, 21 years ago. Here's what they said happened, but there are other people who say, that maybe it didn't go down that way. And ultimately, I said, if you're asked about what 9/11 is or September 11th, just tell them that there were 2 tall buildings in New York City that were destroyed by someone. This whole narrative of it's a terrorist. Obviously, it was a terrorist. It's just which terrorist. Anyway, not going to divert too much on that, but feel bad for those people. It's hard to watch. When you go back to that moment and you see those people that are, the smoke and the upper floors and the fires, and you got people jumping out of that building because that's their only option. I mean, what a horrible decision to have to make. Just terrible. I mean, I can't even imagine having to be in that situation. And for someone to have put those people in that situation, it's just evil. Just evil. And so once you identify who those people are and you know who those people are, hard to give them any mercy, huh? All right, moving along. Let me go back a little bit. I don't want to talk about 9/11 anymore, but I want to talk about, there's a lot of fear right now of, you got Biden giving his speech on that last Thursday night, I think it was, when he was, he had the dark background and trying to do the stormtrooper look with the Marines in the back. Almost a warlike, hey, we're going after somebody mentality, divide the people. You see that, and there are people who are, oh my gosh, what's this going to mean? Oh my gosh, we got 87,000 more IRS agents. He's going to weaponize, military, this and that. No, they're going to lock down and do all these things to us. Illinois, this T-Safe or Safe-T bill to where if they commit certain crimes, they're not going to be held. There's going to be no bail, to where they're not held until trial. They're just running free. And there's 2 sides to that coin. I mean, it's not as bad as it sounds, because the state's attorney can still, if he proves the case, make sure that these people do get locked up before trial, because they are a clear and present danger to, the community. It just takes a little bit more work and more resources, so they complain it's an unfunded mandate. Anyway, I don't want to go off on that tangent, but there's this fear that everything, it's just horrible right now. It's just so scary right now what the government's going to do to us. And I think back, because I've lived through it, and I ask any of you, most of you have lived through it, what you think. I mean, do you have that sense of doom, that imminent fear, that just that sense that things are really bad, that we're in big trouble, that things have really gone south, and we're in danger, serious danger in our homes? I don't get that sense. I don't get that feel, because I compare it to the days and the couple of years after 9/11. Those were the times that really activated me, because I sensed real danger. I saw tyranny unfolding, and I mean, honestly, I thought there would be a time that, hey, our soldiers are going to fire on civilians. They're going to fire on people because, we're terrorists or domestic terrorists. there's a lot more people brainwashed then, I think. A lot more people who were drinking the Kool-Aid of patriotism then, who would have done some bad things in the name of terrorism, in the name of patriotism or terrorism. I don't get that sense that people would do that anymore, because I think we're in a different time. I mean, honestly, back then, I was worried. I was worried about how things were going for America, because you had cameras being installed everywhere. You had, I mean, at the airports, I mean, rude TSA, very authoritarian. I mean, everything, there was just that heightened sense of fear, and you know, who you're either with us or against us. Or I can't even speak. I'm talking like George Bush. I'm channeling him. You're either with us or you're against us. You know, that mentality, and that's what it was. It's all or nothing, baby. You know, you're not for the cause. And I mean, people were, you know, there were people who, you know, used derogatory terms toward Muslims, and, you know, called them things. And I mean, if they were dark skinned, I mean, you know, looked like they were from the Middle East, there was some worry. You know, I mean, there was retaliation. So you don't talk about hate crimes. So there was just that sense of fear that was more palpable in the air. You could feel it. And there was that, in my mind, that sense of when things could really go bad. You know, with this type of mentality, this fear that was whipped up. I mean, all of America kind of, you know, just that swell of, you know, just that vibe, that, you know, patriotic vibe, which it was more just like government always does, whips you up into passions to get you to go do something you ordinarily wouldn't do. Just like Pearl Harbor in World War II. Nobody in America wanted to get involved in war. Didn't want to go to war with Germany. And then Pearl Harbor happens. Oh my gosh. Wow. We never saw that coming, just like 9/11. We never would have thought that was coming, even though you're like preventing the Japanese from getting fuel and, you know, all kinds of shenanigans in Southeast Asia to provoke them into war. And so they bombed Pearl Harbor. And, well, they happen to be aligned with Germany, so I guess, you know, we're mad at Japan. They can't do that to us. They killed our servicemen. They unprovoked attack. Well, since we're going to war with Japan, you got to go to war with Germany too. You know, we have a lot of Germans here in the United States, still do. And it's just like, we just didn't want to get involved in a war in Europe, but dragged into it because of emotion. Because that's what happens. Whip you up into emotions, get you all fired up. And next thing you know, you're off to war. After 9/11, it was, somebody's going to pay for this. You know, you got Toby Keith coming out with songs. Oh, Statue of Liberty shaking her fist. America's going to put a boot in your ass. You know, all fired up. Emotion. And so you get wrapped up into emotions, and the next thing you know, you're in a war in Afghanistan that's unwinnable because the Soviets tried it, didn't work. And then you're at war with Iraq. Weapons of mass destruction. Colin Powell at the UN presenting the case. Weapons of mass destruction. And it's just this, you know, well, he's a sponsor of terrorism, you know, so we've got to stop this before it spreads. He's, you know, got oil and resources, and so we go into Iraq, and what a catastrophe that is. And I mean, the atrocities that end up getting committed on both sides, and it's just not good. And what came of it? Look back through the lens of history. All that emotion, all of that anger, all of that let's get even, whatever came of it. Couldn't find bin Laden forever, the supposed mastermind behind it all. You know, living in a cave somewhere on dialysis. Oh, yeah. And then we finally find him in a compound, and, you know, the Marines go in, you know, SEAL team goes in and takes them out, and then some of them end up dying in a bad accident afterwards. Eyewitnesses. So, and then that was just, what an anticlimactic event. Well, we found bin Laden in Obama's administration after Bush did the damage and left. Didn't even find bin Laden. Got us in the war with Iraq and Afghanistan. And then they dump his body over into the ocean, you know, according to Muslim beliefs, you know, and tradition. They just dump his body into the ocean without allowing anyone to identify it, you know, at least press or the public. We just have to take the word for it. They got him. It's over. You know, mission complete. George Bush, 2003, was it? Mission complete, mission accomplished. So you look back through the lens of history and you think, what did we really accomplish? By getting all worked up in this emotional frenzy. You got a bunch of wounded soldiers. You got a bunch of soldiers with post-traumatic stress disorder. We've got dead soldiers. We've got wives, and that's what I'm thinking. Lives have been destroyed. Families have been destroyed. The Iraqi people, their families, their infrastructure destroyed. Afghanistan destroyed. And what did we gain out of it? Well, we printed a lot of money, trillions, that could have been used for something better, because, look, face it, it's inflationary printing the money. It doesn't matter. So if you're going to print the money, let's do it for the people. Let's just pay off all our stuff and have a jubilee and then start over. No, we can't do that. No, we're going to fund this war machine. We're going to give no bid contracts out. We're going to let these defense contractors make a lot of money. And, we'll make a lot of money because we're shareholders in that. And our buddies are shareholders, people that get us elected. We'll also be able to usher in a control grid because, at some point, these people are going to wake up. They're going to have technology to where, they're going to be able to understand and see what we do. And we're not going to be able to pull off these crimes in the dark anymore because, they might have a cell phone, in their hand that they can look up all the information and they can video record things. And they might have something called social media to where they can actually discuss this stuff and they can become the news reporters. They are the news. So our establishment media might not be so effective in the future. So really what we need to do is usher in more of a control grid. We need the cameras, we need the biometric scanning. We need to make sure that we know exactly what they're doing with the, their bodies and their money. We need to make sure that we really have control of them. If they travel, we want to make sure we've got an agent identifying them, scanning them, and a body scanner, collecting all the information we need to know where these people are going. We need to be able to track and trace all their money because we need to know what their transactions are. We need to build a profile. Social media, we'll build a profile, and that's what they do. We need to know everything we can about these people. We need to control them. We need to put them in a matrix control grid. So what did they do? Boom. Because they knew at some point people would wake up. I don't think you'd be able to pull off 9/11 today. You wouldn't be able to do what they did then because they had control of the media. There's a whole different world. Now, you've got everybody pulling out their cell phones. You're at the Pentagon, you're pulling out your cell phone, you're recording, and you don't see any plane wreckage, and you see this hole that the wings of the plane, how would they have hit it doesn't make sense how that went down. You would have video footage everywhere. So the lies that they tell you and the narrative that they create would fall apart. It just would. You can't pull that off today like they did then. But they kind of know that. They do war games. They got war colleges. They know exactly what they're doing and what they have to do and what they can get away with. Got away with the pandemic. Got away with the pandemic. And now you see the results rolling out. You see all the damage that it's done. And but it's long COVID. It's long COVID. That's what it is. We're just going to redefine it. But more and more people are aware of it. More and more people who have the eyes to see and the ears to hear and are willing to do the research and be honest with themselves know what the cause of all of this is. Blatantly obvious. The information is all out there. You just have to use it. You just have to go after it. You've got the tools. You got all the weapons. And you just have to use them. So, yeah, I think it was more scary back then in the early 2000s because all this was rolling out. There was much more of a hostile feeling to where if you're the enemy. If you're not for what we're doing, you're the enemy. And wireless wiretaps. All the things they were getting away with and getting implemented and are doing now anyway. It's just that I think you had a more complicit body populace to turn on their own citizens. Soldiers that would have been more apt to, in the name of terrorism and defending the motherland, would have been more apt to, look at some of their fellow citizens as enemies. I just don't think that that's the case anymore, because I think a lot of trust is eroded on both sides of the aisle. Democrat, Republican, doesn't matter. I think a lot of the trust has been gone, and not as many people are going to follow those orders if given the order. And some people say, oh, well, that's why they bring in the UN troops. That may be, but again, there's a reason why Switzerland's never been invaded. It's because they're all armed, and it's not worth the fight to most people. It's just not worth the fight, and they're a very wealthy nation. But nobody's gonna go after them. It's kind of the same in the U.S. I mean, very well armed. We own 46% of all the firearms in the world in one country. So it would be a rough battle. The British tried it in 1776, after, in the Revolutionary War. And, to fight a war across oceans is a very difficult thing. Doesn't matter if you've got the greatest Navy and the greatest military in the world. It's a tough thing to do. And especially if the group you're fighting is the most well-armed in the world. So it makes it really tough. So anyway, there's that. All right. Rambled long enough. Couple other things I wanted to talk about, but I think I'll just skip it, and maybe I'll talk about them tomorrow, maybe make a video later. I don't want to make this too long. Happy Monday. Happy September 12th. And enjoy the next week of royal pompousness. All right. Use the resources, use the tools you have. That goes along with money. You've got a weapon called Litecoin, a cryptocurrency that has privacy built into it, a scarce supply. Coming into a time where the government wants to control everything. They want to put that final nail in the coffin where they track and trace all your transactions, and they control them. They can stop you from doing them. You just saw with, I think it was Visa and MasterCard, they just put a little flag. If you use their network to buy a firearm, a gun, it gets marked into a category. There's a flag that goes on it. So now it's easy to pull those records back and say, hey, give me a list of all the transactions for firearms. Just makes it easier to track and trace what you do. Not that you're doing anything wrong. It's just the fact that, oh, well, you bought 3 guns in the last month. Maybe we'll send the ATF to your door. We'll show up, and they'll have the tools to be able to look up those lists easier now if you use a credit card. So that's all they're going to do. They're going to try and intimidate you. They're going to try and do things. Ultimately, it comes down to it's your right. If you're purchasing them above board, Second Amendment right. And you've got the right to not let them in your house without a warrant too. All right. Trust yourselves. Always trust yourselves. Go with your instincts. They're usually right. And times you get upset is when you go against your instincts and you second guess yourself. So don't do that. All right. Hope you have a wonderful day. Love you all. Thanks for watching. Trust yourselves. Always.